I'm leading over to Jürgen Guldner from BMW, who will give us the BMW perspective. And as Johannes Tüppler just said, BMW has always been a pioneer in battery electric vehicles, and even earlier, a pioneer in hydrogen operated vehicles with fuel cells and with combustion engines, always with the philosophy to then get it out of research when the time is right. And it's good to hear that the time seems to be right now. I'm also excited to hear about that. Just a few words on you. Jürgen is an electrical engineer with a master from Clemson University in South Carolina and a PhD from Technical University in Munich. You spent several years in research at BMW. You have developed as chief engineer the first hybrid vehicle, the active hybrid X6 at BMW, and since 2018, Jürgen Guldner is heading BMW's hydrogen research program. So without further ado, over to you and to the iX5 hydrogen technology. Jürgen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well. Unfortunately, I cannot be in Berlin today. So I'm talking to you from Munich. Modern technology allows that, and I think it's really great that I can speak to you online today. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks for the introduction. I'd like to spend a few minutes on introducing our BMW strategy and our technology today. Let me start with telling you that sustainability always has been on the top of the agenda at BMW. We joined the ambition for 1.50 degrees. We obviously in 2015 joined the Paris Agreement, and we are also part of the UN Race to Zero program. For us, that means that we need to leverage all available technologies to do this transition and do this transition fast. That means battery electric and fuel cell electric vehicles. And it also means for us that we look at the whole value chain, we look at the whole life cycle of a vehicle, we look at the production of the vehicle, the use phase, and the recycling of the vehicle, and not just our products as is. A lot has been talked about why do we need passenger vehicles with fuel cell, and a few things already have been mentioned in the previous talks. I won't go into that, especially the energy system and infrastructure. So the talks really match each other and complement each other very well. I'd like to add two more aspects here. One is the customer. You know, when in the public discussion, very often it is talked about from a technical point of view, saying, well, battery electric vehicles are more efficient than fuel cell electric vehicles, so why should we use fuel cell electric vehicles in the passenger vehicle sector? Well, we should not forget the people, we should not forget the customers, and we do see in several studies, for example by DENA in Germany, every year there is a study, and there is a number of people who say, well, we prefer a fuel cell electric vehicle over a battery electric vehicle. Obviously, the mainstream in the passenger sector will be battery electric vehicle, but a certain percentage, and we don't really know how big that percentage will be at the end, but a certain percentage of customers says, well, it doesn't fit into my individual mobility needs to have a battery electric vehicle. And that can be mainly attributed to the feature of fuel cell vehicles that they can be refueled very fast. And obviously for that we need a reliable and dense refueling station network. Just one word or additional sentence on the fueling station network. Here, in addition to the cost aspect that was just mentioned in the previous talk, we also see the synergy possibility between having commercial vehicles, trucks, buses, and passenger vehicles fueled at the same station, because the hydrogen obviously is the same. Yes, the pressure level, at least for some truck applications, is different. With 350 bars versus the 700 bars for the passenger vehicles, but the add-on cost for the individual gas station to include a passenger option with 700 bars should be much less even than the numbers that were introduced or were the base for the study that we just saw from the Forschungszentrum Jülich. That having said, obviously it would be very important that when we build an infrastructure, when we build a network of hydrogen fueling stations in Germany, in Europe, that the fueling stations are built such that they can serve both commercial vehicles, trucks, buses, and passenger vehicles and vans at the same time. It would be really short-sighted to build now a fueling station network just for trucks and then find out in a few years, well, we need it now for passenger vehicles, and then we start over again. Another aspect that we consider very heavily is the raw materials and the resources aspect. As I said in the beginning, we look at the whole life cycle of the vehicle, including getting raw materials from the earth all the way up to recycling. And here, the footprint of a fuel cell vehicle is much different to the footprint of a battery electric vehicle. And if you do the whole life cycle analysis, then the efficiency discussion that was mentioned earlier also has a completely different outcome, let's say the least here. Just a brief discussion on the history of BMW. Yes, we have been working on hydrogen for many years, as we have for electric or battery electric vehicles as well. And as you know, we have rolled out a number of battery electric vehicles in the last few years, very successful in the market, and we're considering doing the same with the hydrogen. As a complement to the battery electric vehicles, we really want to stress it's not a competition between the two technologies. We think we need both technologies. We think we need to leverage all available technologies to do the transition fast. We started with combustion engines and liquid hydrogen, and we quickly found out with the work, for example, with the Hydrogen 7 program, that it is better to go to fuel cell and it's better to go to the standard 700 bar technology, at least in the passenger vehicle sector. Just recently, we announced that we are now starting the production of our small fleet of BMW iX5 hydrogen vehicles. And just to manage expectations, unfortunately, they will not be for sale or for lease yet. It's a more or less demonstration fleet that will be used for media events, for press events, also for political events, for shuttle operation and so on. It gives us the opportunity to learn about how these vehicles operate in a daily use, and to gain more experience that then will go into a possible next generation, which then would be mass production. And we haven't really decided yet when that will be, but the earliest would be the second half of this decade, where we would introduce a mass production model. The introduction of this vehicle here has been very successful. We did a lot of testing and so on. Just a brief overview of the technology that's inside the vehicle. Obviously, we have the fuel cell system in the front. We think we have the most powerful fuel cell system that is available in the passenger vehicle market with 125 kilowatts. We can do that actually continuous power, not just peak power. We have about 6 kilograms of hydrogen in the vehicle stored, which gives us about 500 kilometers of range due to the big vehicle that we're using. And in the rear, we have an electric motor that is actually taken straight from our battery electric vehicles. It's the same motor that is in the iX or the i7, for example. And we add a high power battery, which is tuned really for power. Doesn't have much energy content. We don't think we need much energy content because it acts as a buffer for additional acceleration and for recuperation of energy while we're braking. These are special battery cells with a high power to energy ratio, and that also means that we're using much less raw material than in the battery of a battery electric vehicle. We did a lot of winter testing. We did a lot of summer testing, obviously, in the last year. Winter testing was very successful up in Sweden. The range of the vehicle is practically the same, and the vehicle really performed well in the harsh conditions that you find there in extreme cold conditions. Same in the winter. In the summer, this year we were in our test facility in France, in southern France, and the testing was very successful. Obviously, it's still going on, and early next year we will bring the first vehicle into the communication. The first communication already has happened in the media, and it was very successful. This is just really a small glimpse of what we've seen in the press in terms of feedback, and it was very encouraging to hear that the press is very receptive and is supporting this dual strategy to have both technologies available in the future. That was the short overview. Thank you very much for your attention. And I don't know if there's time for a few questions, but I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for making it very clear. And the important message that we also convey is always, it's not competition, it's a complement. And as you rightly said, it is really catering for certain user requirements. And if you're an intensive user of a vehicle, you might not be perfectly happy with a purely battery electric vehicle.